seminar, we had a really good speaker. The speaker was an instructor at the seminar and Roots. And he had talked about progression. Yeah, we're at church. Secular, one, secular, two, and then there's another group in there.
Okay, I think we'll get started. Well, you know, all by myself, I gotta assume that no one else wants to be part of this. There's a little handout for your reference, and what I'll do this morning is talk a little bit about process, and then we'll talk about the current status of where we're at, and share some information from the Synod, a little question and answer. So this is probably more detailed than really most of you want to know, but it's a guide that we use, kind of put it together from a couple of different sources, from the Synod in terms of the process. Phase one we really completed at this point. That was the gathering of information, doing the MSP, and sending it off to the Synod. So we're kind of done with that part. Phase two is where we're at right now. We get into phase two. Confidentiality is kind of a big word at this point because we'll be receiving names. We really can't talk about them outside of the committee for a lot of different reasons. One in particular is that we don't want to disrupt the ministry of another pastor that potentially could come to us. That maybe the congregation doesn't know that they're seeking a new call. So, and then communication is important, not only with the congregation, but also with the candidates themselves. So they clearly understand our process and what we are doing. If you go to the second page, there's various steps involved in this process, and I won't go through them all. There's a couple extra copies up here for someone that needs them. Some of the steps are really quick and happen fast. Other steps are more detailed, and we'll take the committee some time to go through that process. But right now we're in a stage of reviewing candidates. I'll talk a little bit about what we've got going. We take a look at their profile, kind of match it up with what the congregation has told us, and then decide to go through. And first step would be to do a Zoom call, kind of get acquainted with the pastors, and then after the Zoom call, then we'll decide whether we're going to interview any of the people that we do the Zoom with. So if you go to step, I think just skip to step 8. You can go through and read this on your own, take it with you. At step 8, once we get a candidate, we have to sit down with them and decide on the compensation package. And that is, I think that's an ever-flowing thing at that point, because we don't know the situation of the candidate we may be wanting to hire. Maybe they have benefits elsewhere, maybe they don't. Where they're going to live, are they going to commute? There's just a host of questions around that. So we'll be working closely with the council, and we already talked to council about it. And they gave us some parameters to work with in the beginning of that. If I'm missing something, Yvonne and Orlin, just pipe up. If I misstate something, correct me. Step 9, the call committee recommends a candidate to the council. And when that happens, we make a recommendation to the council. The council then will either vote or recommend that to a congregational meeting, then we'll have a congregational meeting to talk about the candidate and do this. Under step 8, it talks about a few things that are involved with that. That being said, it takes 2/3 of the people attending the, first of all, we need a quorum, and then it takes 2/3 of those people to approve the pastor. How long the meeting it takes will depend on a lot of questions. We're going to try and provide as much information as we can about the candidate. We've had a couple suggestions on some things we should try to do during that meeting already. So once that happens, the congregation will not know the name of the person until you go to the meeting. I know some said they don't like that, and I certainly understand that. However, we have to respect the confidentiality of the pastor that we are recommending. So when we get there, we vote to approve that candidate, then it can go outside the congregational meeting. Questions? Yes.
Is it likely that this individual is also auditioning or looking to go to other churches, like 2 or 3 or 4?
And that's a very good question. The answer to that is yes. I'll just skip to the situation we already had where we had a candidate that submitted, and we were ready to set up Zoom calls, and the candidate called and said that she had reviewed our MSP, and she had got a call from 2 other congregations, and so she decided to put her name into one of those congregations. However, it also meant a long commute for her, which she didn't really want to do, and she also had kids in high school, and they didn't want to change schools, so she withdrew her name from that. And we're going to run into that. So, but that's a good question. Any other questions?
At one point, if I'm please, I mean, I think Yvonne would know the answer. Didn't the house immediately to the west serve as a pastor's residence?
Puppies, old house,
Oh,
right here.
no,
I didn't think so.
no, the house where Royal and Vern Foster lived.
Yes,
Grindbacks moved to because it was open.
yes.
No, but I'm talking.
But they
I mean,
sold
I'm
the
talking right across
parsonage.
the road from.
No,
Puppies,
no.
yeah.
No,
That wasn't?
no,
Okay.
the parsonage was in Battle Lake that the 3 churches owned, and that was sold when it was split up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
So no information about the candidate will be available until you come to the congregation meeting?
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Yes.
Will this candidate preach before they are hired? No,
No.
will not hear that?
No. Actually, with modern technology, the committee will be able to hear that candidate preach several times, because a lot of that stuff's online now, and we can also request it from the candidate. So it's the old way of going and listening to the pastor preach. Probably it could occur, but probably not. Pardon?
They don't do that anymore, this is good.
You can,
No.
You can't.
we can.
We can, yes, we can. We have the ability to do that.
But that's just-
But it would be in with a discussion with the candidate, what they feel comfortable with.
But it's only the call committee that will be able to go online to hear that person preach? Okay, because you're the only ones that are gonna know who that person is.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's correct. Other questions regarding?
Is it fair to ask what kind of a salary package compensation we're looking at? 50 to 80, 20, you know, da.
Well, that's a fair question. We talked about it at council, and what we've budgeted for is kind of the package we're financially looking at. Now, if we go beyond that, at the congregational meeting, the congregation will have to vote because it's not, it'll be a change in the budget.
Yeah.
Dan,
So-
it's within the budget guidelines that we passed.
Well, I don't have it memorized.
Okay, it'll be under 107.
Say it again.
It'll be under 107, and that's what Cal.
Yeah, 107 is the
Top.
is the number, and that includes salaries, retirement benefits,
Housing.
insurance. Insurance is the biggest demon here. This whole thing. We don't know if the candidate's going to require full family coverage or just single coverage or what. So we've talked to the council about it. They're aware of it, and we'll have to work through that. But we'll have a pretty good idea what that is when we're working with them. And we want to make, I think if you read through this, we'll negotiate with that prior to going into the congregational meetings. So the congregation will know exactly where we're at. It won't be after the fact.
Does that amount include a housing allowance if necessary?
Pardon?
Does that include a housing allowance?
Inclusive housing allowance, yeah. So there's some flexibility. We did that with Pastor Jim. Those that were involved in finances. He kind of moved around his salary and housing allowance and how the insurance worked. And so if you negotiate a total package number, you're able to do that rather than the individual amounts.
Is it fair to ask if you have a target date?
Well, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No, I'll get into that in a second. We got. So where are we at today? This process. We have submitted our MSP to the Senate. They then take our MSP and send that out to prospective pastors. We had 2 recommendations, nominations come from the congregation. One turned down, and the other one, the bishop in that synod hasn't given approval for our synod to talk to that pastor, so that's kind of part of it. They've had 7 submissions from the synod out to pastors. There's been 3 responses at this point. This is posted on a national websites, so it's nationwide. People can see who's out there. What I might do here at this point is after our last call committee meeting, we really wanted to kind of understand more in detail what the situation is with calling a pastor. So our call committee city contact is Pastor Dennis Preston. So I had a long conversation with him on the phone and really pressed them a little bit about, okay, what is the situation, so we can kind of let people know what we're looking at. And so I did get an email back from the Senate, and I'll read parts of it. They said, overall, there's a large shortage of candidates The last regional placement of seminaries, there were 70 first call faith communities open, which would be like us, who need full-time pastors. We had 21 candidates available. Only one of the 21 were not geographically restricted. So the numbers are low for new pastors, and the new pastors we have going to the seminary are not willing to move. So the best thing we can do is to keep raising up leaders, either as SAM, which are lay people, to function as pastors, or sponsoring more people to attend the seminary. This is a long-term solution, not a short-term fix. Again, healthy congregations can still afford a full-time pastor. You are getting more interest than many other churches in our synod, and yet it still doesn't feel normal by any stretch of the imagination. If your congregation wants to continue to nominate folks, we would be happy to follow up. So, we're looking at a limited pool of people. We're looking at candidates that maybe are not willing to move. So, just want to prepare everybody. It may take a long time. Maybe somebody will show up. Maybe God will send us a candidate that's really, really great. Yeah, at some point you will. No doubt about that. We will find a pastor, but it might take a little bit longer. Yes.
Is there ever a potential that we go back to being a 2-point or a 3-point parish?
We have not talked.
We have not talked about that, and we've visiting with the synod. It's even more difficult for those parishes that pastor serves 2 or 3 congregations to get someone to go there.
I bet.
Yeah, we're in the best situation. I mean, as long as we're financially sound, we can afford a new pastor. The response we've got from our MSP was very well done. They thought it was a great MSP, and we should be able to attract a good pastor at some point. It's just going to maybe take some time.
Well, we knew that going into this, that it wasn't gonna happen overnight. So
Yes, we knew that. They said even up to 2 years.
it seems to be
I was
moving
more
along
hopeful.
well.
Pardon?
It seems to be moving along well.
It's moving along, and if you look at, to your question, Dan, the timetable. Here's this sheet here. Mine's in color. Yours is in black and white. That's the timetable that we're following, and so right now, if you go to March, we're on schedule. We're starting to receive candidates from the synod. Monday, we're having a Zoom meeting with 2 different pastors. From there, we'll decide if we're going to interview either one of them. And then that's what we have so far. So we're after this, if this doesn't materialize, we're waiting until we get some more responses. If we interview, it'll be after Easter. The current pastor is a pretty busy time for him, so we'll move that to after Easter, get that out of the way, and then we'll probably end up being in mid-May then before we get serious if one of these candidates is that.
Just have to say, in the meantime, aren't we blessed with the interim pastors we have? Yes. My goodness, the call committee did a great job.
Great spot.
Yes. We're very pleased with our 2 pastors, and so, what can you do now? You continue to support our interim pastors. Continue to pray that God will send us a good candidate. Continue to work in your committees. It's going to be important that we keep the congregation running at a good pace. Yes?
How long does the pastor that is thinking about coming here, how long does he have to notify the congregation he's in?
I think every situation is different.
30 days. 30 days.
Okay.
They have 30 days to respond.
Right.
They have 30 days to respond, and then his resignation at that church, maybe
Right.
2 weeks' notice, or whatever they decide to do.
I didn't know we didn't have.
Yeah. There's other things you can do, like there's an opening on the council. If you want to get involved in council and be a big part of this, you can certainly do that. There is obviously other opportunities out there to help the congregation get going. So it's been yes.
We also have an opening on the finance committee.
Oh yes, we have an opening on the finance.
We're rounding up business, and for someone to lead the photo pictorial director. Thank you very much.
Yes, okay, the photo directory, I went out and kind of looked at that and I decided it wasn't for me. Any other questions? Let's see if I can miss that.
I would say this, we want to find the best.
Well, one last comment. If you really want good reading and you want the MSP to look at it, there is a copy at the office. You can sit down, you can come in and sit down and read through it. It's not for wide distribution for a lot of good reasons. So you can come in and do that, and I don't think some of you already have done that.
Sorry, you got interrupted.
I just said,
Okay.
the call committee wants to take its time and find the best possible candidate, and we don't know that we don't have that, but we aren't gonna just jump because this is what we've been given. So.
As long as we can keep our two guys going there, we'll be.
Well, I don't know, I could try to twist his arm and tell him he has to stay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't have that option. But I mean, that's just an agreement we make as interims. But anyway, I think that the Pastor Lynn is almost a perfect example of who new candidates are, right? That someone who's already established. She's married to a farmer. She's not going to pick up and and move. Well, did the Holy Spirit work through that? Yes, it did, and she got a call within distance of that. So we know the Holy Spirit is working here, but that's most candidates are just like her that are in the seminary now. When me and Pastor Jeff and Pastor Jim graduated from seminary, we were young. We had young family. If we had kids at all, we had 2 preschoolers. It was pretty easy for us to move. We didn't own a house, we were glad to move and, finally get a house. So that's what I don't want to say up against, I want to say what we have to work with. And we have to trust.
We have some challenges.
Right. And we have to trust, just like the, Holy Spirit was working, in First Lutheran and the timing was perfect. It is for us too, but we don't know. That's the hard part. Is knowing when that will happen.
We could get another candidate next week or tomorrow.
Right, yes, yep. And there is movement. There's not, we were just at a conference yesterday, and I was asking around pastors, if you know someone who's, looking to move, make sure they look at Zion. But, the pastor from Barnesville just is moving to Bemidji. Who else was I just thinking? Oh, from Goodrich, the pastor there is moving. So there is some movement out there. It just is a process, and there's a pretty good chance the candidate will look much different than Pastor Jim did when he started here. That's what you have to be ready for. And that's a good thing.
You're not going to be 27, 28 years old.
No.
So are you not looking at new out of the Senate?
we did, but they're just not gonna be available.
And is it too late to nominate somebody?
What was the question?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And your question was, are we looking at, or are you looking at a SEM grad? Two things about that. First, you guys are probably a notch above what a SEM grad. There's lots of other churches that would come and, and the bishop would say, no, let's put the SEM grad over here, over here, over here. So that's one of the things. The other one, they're just so few and far between. That is it. I don't think the bishop is going to even give you a name of a SEM grad. Yeah. And there's reasons for that. Good reasons, but
Maybe the only exception if there was one that has had life experience.
correct.
Say they've had a career and decided to go into the ministry.
Yes.
And that's a little different situation.
Right. And that
we could think about it.
Yeah, and that's Pastor Lynn, right? She had she had the best job in the world to learn how to be a pastor. So, and then you ask why? Do you still want to be a pastor? But I think hopefully that. I think you've already heard that, but to really put Pastor Lynn up there as an example. Oh, that's the norm. STEM grad now, that age, that type of geographical restrictions, all of those things. Yeah.
Their kids are gone.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. People who work with me, I like to kill trees. There is one other little page in here. It's just for your information. But this is what you have told us to look for your test. So we kind of use this as a guide. And we use it as a guide when we do our questioning in our interviews. There'll be questions related to this as well. So I'm trying to follow the MSP as close as we can. Anything else? If not, thank you for this opportunity. It's been a lot of work, but it's been rewarding as well. So,
and the call committee is doing a great job. They work very, very hard.